Alright YouTube, what's going on? A couple of things. Apologize I didn't get a video up yesterday, but work's been brutal, people. I'm working a lot of hours here and there just hadn't been a lot of time. I mean, there haven't been a lot of time, so is that I haven't even been able to take my Novorossi to the post office yet. I need to get that done. I'll probably do it this week coming up because I'm setting up a time with my buddy Elliot at the hobby shop. He's going to get me out on the track when nobody else is out there, so I can really get a feel of it. He's going to help me choose. I'm going to get 2 sets of track tires for the Truggy, and I'm going to get 2 sets of track tires for the buggy, the Hyper 7. We're going to run the Hyper just like this with the OSVZB 21 9886 and the 41031. I know that's not your typical track setup there, I don't think. I really don't know anything about racing, people. This is all going to be new to me. I'm not saying I'm going to go racing or anything like that, but I want to get my whip out on the track. I want to see what she can really do in the environment of which it's intended, you know, not just bashing. So anyway, we're going to get a couple of sets of track tires for each one. Raja, shout out to you. He gave me some pointers on that, so I'll look into that as well. I did get my Savox servo back. We'll go ahead and get that put in the Truggy and get this all buttoned up. Since we're sitting here looking at this button, this switch, and this LiPo and this receiver, I want to tell y'all, I don't know everything, but I do know that when I was running the Fly Sky, I was having intermittent connection breakage on the receiver. Now, it wasn't the battery straight into the receiver, but it's really the same thing, people. So, personally, I don't think there's any 100% fail-proof method to keep your vehicle from losing contact. So, I don't recommend that you put your battery directly into your receiver. Not only is it a pain in the ass, but you still have a risk of losing connection. So, it's not fail-proof, people. Don't get that twisted. Anything can happen. I'm speaking from experience, I was losing contact right here with the power supply to this receiver. So I wouldn't do it if I were y'all. Y'all do what you want to do, but personally I will not. I'll take every precaution that I can to keep a runaway from happening. In fact, I'm buying 3 more of these switches. This is the Sky RC, so I'm not buying these. I ordered 3 of the ProTech brand buttons just like this. They're exactly like this, and they're about the same price. They're about $40 a piece, people. But this is not a switch, it's a button, so it can't be knocked. You know, it can't be knocked to where it will, you know, it can't. It's not a rocker. You can't jar this to where it's gonna shut your vehicle off. Something else I wanted to touch on is, you know, when you're washing your vehicles, if you don't break it all the way down like the Muggy does, I don't know a whole lot of people that break their trucks all the way down like that. I know a lot of people, including myself. I don't do it every time, but I will use the Botagel way to wash my whips. I've never had any trouble with corrosion in my bearings anywhere else. But I will tell y'all that every time I wash my vehicle, I pull all my electronics out of it. If you leave your electronics in it, your switch is going to go bad. You're going to lose contact. It's going to corrode on this switch first and foremost. Especially if you have one with a rubber boot like that, that moisture is going to stay in there even more. So pull your electronics out if you use the Botagel method to wash your whips. Sometimes I'll pull my stuff all the way down, but sometimes I won't. So I've never had an issue with my servos going out because they've gotten wet. Now, I don't suggest spraying the water directly on your servos, but it's not going to hurt it to get a little bit damp, and a lot of them are waterproof. a lot of mine I'm upgrading to waterproof, like the ones on the buggy here, the JXs, they're waterproof. They're not really 100% waterproof, they're just splash proof, so don't spray the water directly on them. And if you do the Bodegel wash method, I suggest that you use WD-40 and a compressor to displace that moisture. I've taken these vehicles apart numerous times and I've never had any corrosion issues whatsoever. So I don't recommend, also people, when you get done running your platform, disconnect your battery. If not, take your battery all the way out, at least disconnect it from the power source. I do that every time I get done running my whips. I'll usually take the batteries all the way out, because these things will still push a charge, especially if you have a vehicle, say a crawler or an X-Max or something where you've got lots of external lighting and things like that. That battery, if it's not unplugged, it's going to constantly push, it's going to draw on your battery, and you're going to get premature loss of battery power. You're going to have to replace your batteries sooner. I mean, obviously on your X-Maxes and things like that, you've got your external batteries, your power supplies. You're going to make sure you, I've seen guys that'll run them, they won't unplug them, they just throw them on the shelf and they're done. Unplug your batteries when you're done using it, whether it's a receiver pack, an RX battery, or it's a power supply battery for your electric vehicles. Unplug your stuff, people. It's safe too. And I also suggest your lipos, keep them in a lipo safe. If you don't have a lipo safe, get something like this. This cost me $39.99 at Walmart. I've had it for 25 years. I used to put my valuable papers in it. Now I store my valuable lipos in it. It's fireproof, explosion proof. Either lock it or put something heavy on top of it. Other than that, people, I'm in the process right now of rebuilding my shocks. I'm going to go ahead and stop using these aftermarket shocks. They look great, but their functionality is basically nothing. It's all being dampered with the springs. So I am looking into actually getting the 3.0 or 4.0 shocks, but it's a pretty expensive venture, people. But I will do it eventually. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and rebuild the stock AT shocks. I'm going to put new oil in it. I purchased this is your 15 millimeter shock ends, cups, and bushings. It's LOSA 5435, and this is for if you're not using the Evo shocks. If you're using the Evo shocks, you're going to want to use the TLR 24. Man, I don't have my glasses on. TLR 243009 for the Evo shocks. Now, if y'all don't know what an Evo shock and a regular shock, an Evo shock is going to be tapered at the end down here. It's going to be regular at the top and it's going to taper down at the end. Those are Evo shocks. So for the regular, use the big cups. For the Evo shocks, use the TLR, the smaller cups. I do have this switch also. While I'm waiting on my other switches, I'm not sure if I'm going to want to run the 8T, but I do have this other switch. I don't have a problem using it. It's brand new. If you guys do use a switch, make sure you use a good switch. Make sure that it's tight, that it's hard to switch back and forth. Some of your cheaper ones or your Traxxas switches, they're loosey-goosey and you're going to have trouble with it. So I don't recommend these rocker switches anymore. I recommend the Sky RC or the ProTech buttons. There's no way that you can jar this in the wrong direction. Now, and I'll tell y'all, people, if you have you can have a failsafe on a controller, and if you lose power at your controller, it's going to go into failsafe mode, hit the brakes, turn the wheel to whatever setting you have it on. If you lose power here at the receiver and the battery, you're SOL. No failsafe is going to help you. I think they have, like Muggy was saying, some external failsafe, but I've never even really seen them. I know for the 5th scale you can have the you know, the fail-safes, your cutoff switches and things like that. But if this thing loses power and your servo is stuck open, you're not physically going to be able to close that. No spring or rubber band is going to snap that back. If that servo goes out and locks up, you're SOL. But I do run, I'm probably going to start going to the rubber bands, but I have always run the, and this was on here when the runaway happened, the Dynamite return spring. The only thing about the return springs is the end sometimes can tear the boot right there. But do everything you can, take every precaution that you can. But I guarantee you, people, there's no 100% proof fail-safe mode to keep losing contact. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Whether you put your receiver, your battery directly in the receiver, or you use a switch or whatever, the risk is always going to be there. Maybe it hasn't happened to some people, but it's happened to me. I was getting intermittent power supplied to this because the connection was loose. So don't get that twisted, people. There's no foolproof way to keep that from happening. I don't recommend running your battery straight into your receiver, especially if you have a LiPo, but I do recommend these buttons. OT's got a really nice one. If you're using LiPo that's got your digital readout, again, unplug your batteries when you're done because it can still draw a charge. Or this Sky RC and the ProTech buttons are about 40 bucks. So this is what I recommend, people. Anyway, that's going to be about it, guys. I'm going to try and get a running video as soon as I can. And in the meantime, I'm going to be working on these shocks on the 8T. I got to open up my droop screws a little bit. They're pretty straight across. The problem I was having is these springs were so stiff that it was pulling my rod ends out. But I got all new rod ends and cups and everything. We're going to put the original 8T shocks. John Bodegel told me to use these in the first place, but I didn't listen. He said these are actually pretty good shocks, even though they're plastic bodied. They're still threaded, and Losi makes really good shocks. So until I get actual 3.0 or 4.0 ones, I'm going to go ahead and put those back on. Other than that, people, I think that's going to be about it. I'm going to try and get some rest again tonight. I've been going to bed at 10 or 10:30 these past couple of nights. It's taking a toll on me, man. The past 3 months that I've really been ramped up in this hobby, I've been getting to bed at 12, 1 o'clock, and I have to get up at 5 o'clock every morning and then drive an hour into San Antonio to go to work. So I'll do the best I can, people, to get some running footage up. My next day off, or if I get an early day off, Saturday or Sunday, you can bet that we'll go ahead and put either the Hyper or the Techno. It's been a minute on the Techno. That last run, I had this pretty dialed in. A few of y'all think it's a little bit lean, and you're probably right. I may back off just a tad on the high, but other than that, she's pretty well dialed in. So we'll get it up and running again and get some footage of it. So probably work on this when I get home tomorrow. Other than that, people, that's gonna be about it. Sorry it's not a running video or nothing really outstanding today. I really love these, man. I'm never gonna get rid of these two right here. This, you can't find this body. You won't be able to find that anywhere. And if anybody does, like Mr. Brewer came up with the box for that, that's badass. Sometime next month we'll talk about that. I really do want the box for this guy right here. Not too worried about the LST2, but the LST1, I definitely want to get that box. We'll talk about that, Mr. Floyd Brewer, for sure. I'm just a little worried about shipping an empty box. The risk of it getting crushed is probably pretty dang good. But we'll talk about it. I'm not even sure where you live. But anyway, guys, if anybody has any of these LST2 bodies right there and you want